Hello everyone, Nubkeks here, and welcome to a comment response video. A couple of days ago, I posted my video talking about our Overwatch heroes anti-fun. Is there good game design or bad game design in each of the individual heroes and then the franchise as a whole? And got loads of comments on this as well. So yeah, just like I said I would do, I'm going to go through and answer these. So I'm going to take about maybe 20 minutes or so to run through as many of these as possible. So yeah, I mean, let's just get into it, and I'll give you my take on what people have said here. So the first comment comes from Flashiness. It says, Garrosh is frustrating as hell. Varian is annoying as hell. Valera was frustrating as hell. Overwatch has just two really annoying heroes, Genji and Tracer, while those ones above all come from WoW. It's not about the franchise, it's about the hero. So yeah, I think this is, it's a fair point, like, especially the point at the end. It's about the franchise, it's not about the hero. Like, I 100% agree with that, and that was the first, I think it was the first point I made in that video. That a lot of the hate which is directed at Overwatch heroes and Heroes of the Storm is kind of incorrect, and that for the most part people don't have a problem at all with at least half of the Overwatch characters that are in the game as of this recording. That it's mostly Genji and Tracer that get the hate, and that there's plenty of other heroes in the other franchises that are hated as well. It's about the hero, not about the franchise. And yeah, I definitely think there's stuff to be said about Garrosh, Varian. I'm actually planning the next video, I think, is probably going to be talking about Varian. People have brought up Valera a few times, so I might talk about her as well. And then Garrosh, yeah, he's also one that's definitely worth talking about. So yeah, I think there's some interesting points there. The kid Fawful says it's not the game, it's the hero. Again, same sort of thing. People don't like certain heroes. Genji and Tracer seem to be the big ones, as they are big annoying assassins. If you ask people what hero they hate regardless of the game, through League of Legends, Dota, other MOBAs, it's super tanks that do lots of damage and assassins with high mobility. As someone that's come from other MOBAs, Genji and Tracer, they don't bother me. It's the philosophy that happens every time a company releases a new champ, god, hero, etc. It does things others don't, and people don't like that. Honestly, Genji's pretty well designed. He's a champ that goes in and picks off the weak, and an assassin should, gets his resets and leaves to re-engage. However, these qualities are what drive anger towards his style. Best example of this is Yasuo from League of Legends. Personally, heroes I hate are Nova, Nova, and Nova. I actually thought this is a really good comment. It brings up, well, it's worthwhile comparing like the hero design from Heroes of the Storm to other MOBAs, other games in the genre. Are heroes as annoying in this one as they are in those games? What are the types of heroes that are annoying in those games? I'm not super familiar because I don't play any of those games currently, but this comment raised a few interesting points. In that, it's super tanks that do lots of damage are very annoying in other MOBAs, which we don't particularly have in this particular game. I mean, Sonya to an extent, but yeah, for the most part, tanks in Heroes of the Storm, just by nature of how the game is designed, don't do that much damage, or they sacrifice some tankiness to do so, or utility, whatever it might be. Assassins with high mobility, well, that's what we see. That's kind of where the frustration comes from, to an extent. In Heroes of the Storm, obviously with Tracer and Genji, that's what's going on there. But yeah, I thought this was interesting that this guy obviously has played some of these other MOBAs, saying, these guys, the heroes and heroes, don't actually bother me. Genji and Tracer, not as bad. Yeah, there's always a thing of, someone releases when something new is released, it's new, and people don't like that. And a question, why don't people don't like that? I mean, it's a generalization, isn't it? But certainly I think, if things that are frustrating, and going back to my central point of this series, is that they're things that you can't counter or you can't prepare for. Certainly when something is new, you don't have the knowledge of how to counter, how to prepare for it. It might not be clear to you how to do so. It's something that you learn after you've learned about the hero, you've played against them a little bit, or it sort of becomes common knowledge in the community. So certainly you could have new heroes that could be especially frustrating at the start if people aren't aware of how to counter them. I can't think of any examples off the top of my head. I think, more generally speaking, I think the issue is more so, certainly with Genji, that people don't actually know how to play the hero very well at the start. And then perhaps after like a week or two, that's when the hero really starts to become frustrating. Though we did have Tracer was very overpowered when she was released, and Tracer Tastar was insane back then as well. But yeah, so I thought that was an interesting one. And then also, just mentioning that, well, Genji, he gets kills, and this is what I'm talking about as well. Genji, when he kills people, it's flashy. Li Ming, same thing. When she kills people, it's flashy. So there can be that disconnect between what's effective and what people perceive to be as effective. So if you have Genji and Li Ming who kill you in this really dramatic way, you can walk away going, oh man, I keep getting killed by Genji and Li Ming, and like they're so overpowered and it sucks to play against them. When in fact they actually have a low win rate, and that although they are killing you in a flashy way, they're not actually being that effective, just generally speaking. So that can lead to extra frustration, I feel, against heroes that do something dramatic. That can lead you to an extra level of frustration, and that you feel like it gives you that impression that they're overpowered when they might not actually be. So yeah, or then just the fact that, hey, an assassin, someone who picks off the weak like an assassin should, that's, you know, that's going to be frustrating. And that's quite common, you know, Valera, Nova, Genji, Tracer, a lot of these heroes, they do dash in, pick off the weak, so that people find that to be a frustrating playstyle. Does it mean it's a bad playstyle for the game? Oh, that's a different question. Smaragdo LP says, okay, I can see a lot of heroes I like from Overwatch, but Hanzo, Symmetra, and Doomfist. I hope they put Reinhardt in the game next. Yeah, I think Reinhardt would be a really interesting one to add. So he's like this big tanky dude with a giant hammer. He can put up a big shield which is like a directional blocking shield that can block incoming abilities and absorb them. I mean, I'm not sure how exactly they would implement that to heroes. Would it absorb a percentage? How strong would the shield be? Does it absorb everything? Does it block skill shots? So on and so forth. I mean, there's a lot of big questions there, but I think there's a lot of interesting gameplay in terms of the hero that has a directional shield. So in terms of facing it which way you want to, you got the counterplay then of moving around the shield, flanking heroes, you know, like Genji that naturally dive behind and such, stunning him maybe to remove the shield. All that sort of stuff is interesting questions. Hanzo, Symmetra, and Doomfist. So I've actually never played Doomfist. I haven't played Overwatch since he came out, so I can't speak to him, unfortunately. I think Symmetra would actually work very well in Heroes. Perhaps one of the frustrations with Symmetra in Overwatch is that she, her turrets and her gun are like lock-on abilities, which obviously, like I said, in Heroes doesn't really matter. It doesn't really matter, because your basic attack is basically sort of, it's point and click, isn't it? It's not, your basic attack's not a skill shot. So that would remove some of the frustration if that is a source of frustration. But what she does, she lays down some turrets, at least very small turrets. They charge up her ultimate, and then her ultimate she can put down either a teleporter, which her allies can teleport to from the base, or she can make it a shield generator, which gives everyone near it a little bit of shielding. And those are the main things that she does. She also throws out this like directional barrier, but this one like is smaller and it travels. I think there's loads of interesting gameplay there. I actually think Symmetra would be really good in Heroes of Storm. Hanzo, I mean, Hanzo could be interesting. Again, I don't see any big issues with Hanzo in Heroes either. He's just like this archer dude. He's got some split arrows, things like that. He's not super mobile. I think he'd be fine. I think he'd actually fit very well into Heroes. Again, I think the frustrations some people might have, I think he has a very large hitbox. His arrows, the aim is very forgiving, I think. So I don't think that would be a massive issue in Heroes, where basic attacks function differently. I think they would translate quite well. Next comment is from Gilherme Souza. Genji and Tracer, yes, frustrating. Lucio, Zarya, and Ana, nah. He also edited in, I forgot Diva, she's fine as well. So again, we've got 2 heroes out of Overwatch that he considers to be frustrating, and 4 that he doesn't. Tracer is annoying / unfun to play against with melee heroes. Genji is Genji, has a freaking entire screen dash, jumps over walls, 2 good ultimates, 1 immunity ability, unfun to play. I mean, so I thought this is interesting, right? So you've described his kit, but you haven't explained why this is bad. You know what I mean? Like jumping over walls, you know, why is this a bad thing? It's not entirely clear. We're having 2 good ultimates, well surely that's a good thing in terms of hero design, not a bad thing. Also, I would argue that the X-Strike is not even that good. Dragon Blade is significantly better if you can pull it off. But yeah, I mean, so you've described his kit, but you haven't actually said why this makes it bad. Like, obviously, there's the implication that these things are all bad, or that, you know, an entire screen dash is bad. But the question, like, why is an entire screen dash bad? What aspect of that is what makes it unfun to play against? It's not clear. Then you also said he's unfun to play, which I would certainly disagree with. I mean, we don't know this for sure, of course, but I think it's fairly safe to assume that a lot of Genji's popularity, well, some of it will come from the perception that he's good. A lot of it must also come from people just enjoy the hero and they think he's cool to play as and they enjoy playing him. I know I personally really enjoy playing Genji, so there you go. I think unfun to play is definitely an opinion that does not seem to be shared by a lot of the players, just judging from Genji's popularity. I mean, we're not sure, but I mean, I think it's a fairly safe bet right there. Okay, next one is from Abel Tensor. only thing I truly have an issue with in regards to the Overwatch heroes is that I find them boring. Also, I really want, I mean, again, that's an opinion, right? Also, I really want to see more heroes from StarCraft and Warcraft. I feel like there's a wellspring of interesting heroes that could be made from these two franchises alone that Blizzard hasn't really touched. I mean, it's interesting. I'm not actually sure about StarCraft. I mean, I don't think that there's that many like great characters to bring from StarCraft. I think certainly they could create a lot of interesting heroes out of the units and the gameplay from StarCraft. I think you could definitely make cool things there. Like the Firebat, for example, is one I mentioned in a recent enough video. I think that would be a really cool hero. But there's not really any Firebat hero. There's no real character there. It's like Lieutenant Morales. There's no character there. Sergeant Hammer. I certainly think it's true for Warcraft that there's a lot of very cool characters that could make it into the game. You know, like Anduin, Velen. They're both very relevant to the current expansion. You know, those guys could come in and be really cool. Lady Vash, you know, from Warcraft 3 stands out as a primary character that's not in the game yet. Maiev could come in as well, and loads of others. I think Warcraft, obviously, it's by far the biggest franchise, and not only do you have the 3 Warcraft games, but well, I suppose the first 2 don't have that many. Certainly the first one, I believe, didn't have much of a story, didn't play it. But Warcraft 3 had plenty of characters that translate to a MOBA well. And of course then you got, what's it, 13 years of World of Warcraft? Lots of World of Warcraft. So you got loads of Warcraft characters, I think, with story and also unique identity and gameplay that come through. You know, Manaroth as well would be a cool one, I think. So you got lots of stuff there that could come across. Grom as well. So plenty of opportunity, I think, in Warcraft. For StarCraft, I'm like, yeah, probably some cool units, but I'm not really too sure about that many cool characters. I'm not really too sure about that one. Again, it's been a year since I played StarCraft, but nothing that stands out to me there. When Blizzard sits and makes Overwatch heroes back to back to back, it's just boring because we already know for the most part what their kit will be. Whereas heroes that come from the other 3 large franchises, StarCraft, Warcraft, Diablo, have more potential variety. I mean, I don't particularly agree with this either. I mean, yes, we do know what their kit will be, roughly speaking, with Overwatch. I would say that certainly a Tracer was translated fairly directly. However, with most of the other ones, they do have one certainly interesting thing is they have like this new, they have a new heroic, a new ultimate ability. Because in Heroes you choose between 2 heroics and they only have one in Overwatch. So for example with Ana we got the Eye of Horus, with Junkrat who's just on the PTR right now we've got the Rocket Ride. So that stuff is quite interesting. And then also I think I also find it very interesting because although yes we know how they play and what their kit is in Overwatch and that it'll be basically identical, you still have all those questions about how precisely they tune the kit, and like what the talents will be and what sort of talent builds they'll have, which can really change up the game. So for Junkrat, who I did a video on a couple of days ago and who's on PTR right now, for example, like he's very squishy, which is not something that you would maybe expect from Overwatch. So he's got that more of a range poke, very vulnerable type play, which isn't perhaps as much there in Overwatch. I don't know about that for sure, but then you've got all the different talent builds, like building more into his frag launcher, perhaps building into concussion mines, upgrading his steel trap. I think that's where for me anyway, a lot of the interest comes from. How do they fit into a composition? How do you tailor them with their talents? And that's something that's not at all clear from Overwatch because, well, there's no talents in Overwatch, is there? So I don't know. I personally think there's loads of it. I personally think anyway, there's loads and loads of interesting things in terms of the hero's kit and their potential, even when they come from Overwatch. And you know, like, okay, you know Ana's going to be sniping support with like Sleep Dart and Nano Boost. You know that's going to be the case, but it's how exactly that functions. I think that there's actually loads of interesting stuff going on there. Kelisharino Cripperino says, Genji's a big issue when he's on my team. When he's on the enemy team, I just expect a free win. Yeah, I mean it brings up this whole thing again, what I was talking about before, of community perception and what actually is or what actually isn't effective. Suggestion from Boya, I disagree with this, which says, just remove Tracer's mount. It makes the Tracer player use dashes more wisely, since you'll need them for a team fight. Yeah, I think that would be quite... That's quite unfun for a player. You know, like a mount ability is a very big deal. I think you need a very good reason not to have a mount on a hero to make it worthwhile. So I think it's fair enough, obviously, with heroes with global, you know, to hack up right wing. And so on, you know, that's fair enough if they don't have a mount, because you got the global, so that's all right. But certainly I would say playing Diva, for example, that's something that I don't particularly enjoy, is that you're slower because you're in the mech. Sort of same thing with Sergeant Hammer. Again, it makes sense because you're a giant mech, you're a giant siege tank. You don't really fit on a horse, you know. But yeah, I think that mount, being able to use a mount is actually a lot of fun. And certainly if you've ever played another MOBA where it doesn't have a mount, you'll probably have a good appreciation for that. Like I used to play League of Legends, so coming to Heroes, the mount is an awful lot of fun. And obviously Blizzard wants to sell mounts. They want people to buy them. So yeah, I think you need a very good reason not to give a hero a mount. I don't think that's really the case with Tracer. I don't see that myself. You know, like using your dashes to traverse the map just seems rather bland because she can't really fight without her dashes anyway. Rapman the Wise says the big point of contention with Genji and Tracer is attacking while moving. Lucio does this too, but his gun just tickles a little bit, so no one cares. Taking the constant damage from heroes that can kite like that is frustrating as so little counterplay. Only you hoping that make a mistake and walk into your stuns or roots. Other thing is most stunts and roots are telegraph skill shots, and there's only the two you talked about and a noob's cocoon that are point and click CC. I'm not entirely sure about that off the top of my head, but anyway, it's the core design of both these heroes compounded with lots of dashes. If Pilot Diva could fire on the run, she'd be super hated. I do agree with that. If Pilot Diva could fire on the run, I think that would be bad because she's supposed to be vulnerable. That's the gameplay idea there, is that it's her vulnerable state. So it's that choice, that trade-off. So it's good that she doesn't shoot while moving. So the trade-off of, oh yeah, if I stand still and I shoot, I'll build up my mech faster, but I put myself in danger because I have to basically stand still. So I think that's good that they didn't do that. Yeah, I mean that is a point though. You know, taking damage from heroes that can kite around you has little counterplay. I'd say certainly with Genji. I mean, Genji doesn't do all that much damage with his basic attacks when he's kiting. I mean, it's all right, but it's nothing. It's nothing spectacular by any means. Tracer obviously does a lot more damage, whereas Genji, a lot of it is built into burst when he dives in and into his heroic. So I don't think it's actually as bad with Genji. Like, sure, you're getting poked, but it's not that super relevant. Whereas with Tracer, the poke is very relevant, and obviously it's building up her heroic as well. So it's more of an issue with Tracer, I think, than with Genji there. The hate I see mostly is that the Overwatch Heroes releases postpone the classic fan favorites from Blizzard being released. Alright, so I got another point kind of on nostalgia and stuff like that. My thoughts on that. Nostalgia is a big selling point of Heroes of the Storm. Being able to play heroes from my favorite franchise is what got me playing the game. And most likely many other people. It's something that no other MOBA has. Yeah, sure. I do believe gameplay should always come first. Nostalgia is just a nice bonus. Most people play their beloved classic characters with ridiculous skins anyway. Candy King Muradin. All nostalgia goes out the window right there. Overwatch characters definitely brought some great gameplay variety to the game. The one that often feels a bit unfitting is Tracer. I do think her auto attack should be reworked to function like Genji's, where you actually do have to stutter step for him to continue attacking, but that's really it. Just wait for the community rage when Reaper comes out. I mean, I don't see this like a huge issue. Like, sure, nostalgia is a big selling point of Heroes of the Storm, but then again, also a big selling point is, of course, you know, Overwatch players that can go, ooh, Overwatch heroes in Heroes of the Storm, let's go play those. It's also a selling point for Overwatch Heroes of the Storm players. They play these Overwatch heroes, and it informs them about Overwatch. So, yeah, I mean, it's not just nostalgia. I think you've got that balance there as well. So I don't see that either as a massive deal. Because sure, nostalgia is good, but then you've also got, you know, appealing to the current games, because they're going to sell current games. I mean, you're not going to sell Warcraft. Blizzard's not going to make much money off, you know, originals. Well, I suppose they remastered it, didn't they? Blizzard, they're smart. They're not going to make too much money off Warcraft 3, the old one now. They're not going to make too much money off that, but they will make lots of money off Overwatch. So, you know, it's balancing that sort of stuff. But you're right that like nostalgia is definitely a bonus. Tracer's Cancer, alright, sure. This is an interesting one as well from Hi. It says, honestly, you could ask, is X character anti-fun? The answer will always be yes to some and no to others. I mean, like, it's not wrong, but like, just how useful is that information, you know? It's not particularly useful. Like, for example, like, sure, there's probably someone somewhere that really hates playing against Tychus, but for the most part, people don't mind playing against Tychus. So there's no like outrage about playing against Tychus, whereas people, clearly a lot of people do find heroes like Tracer very frustrating to play against. So you got that balance of, you know, well, very few people find Tychus fun to play, very few people have an issue with Tychus, whereas lots of people have an issue with Tracer. So I mean that instantly makes the question worthwhile, because there's something behind it then, right? There's something behind it. It's not just random personal opinion. It's personal opinion which is founded on some aspect of gameplay, and that's the point here. Is that this is like, it's a competitive 5v5 game. It's supposed to be balanced, supposed to be strategic, tactical, all the rest, teamwork. So if people are consistently finding a hero unfun to play against, well, that's an issue. It's supposed to be fun too, so that's an issue. So it's looking at them. That's the point of the series, is to look at them and work out, you know, okay, well, what about them actually is, you know, anti-fun? Is there something there? That's the point of the series. You know, I could do, is Tychus anti-fun? And one person would agree, but there wouldn't be much in that video, because they just go like, well, actually, I think he's fine. You know, that's kind of it, and there's not much objection. So that's kind of the point there. So, I mean, like, technically correct, but what's the point, really? Is what I would say about that. I think this will be the final question to look at now. And let me know what you thought about going through these questions quickly. Is that good? Is it bad? Let me know if you'd like me to take more time on these or whatnot for the next one I do. But Doomlord BG asked, Artanis was pretty boring compared to Kerrigan from the Zerg, and Raynor from the Terran. I'm sure he wasn't that bad. Come on, I mean, we're talking about Raynor, who's basically a ranged minion. Okay, so and then people are talking about him being meta and whatever. There's a misunderstanding there in terms of what I meant in terms of Artanis being bland. I did mention his gameplay, but when I was talking about him being bland, that was just in terms of being a character, in terms of his story, his personality. Compared to Raynor and Kerrigan, I think he's extremely dull. Like, Artanis was so boring. It's one of the worst main characters Blizzard has ever had, I would say. Like, there's just nothing interesting going on there. Whereas Raynor had a lot of interesting stuff going on. Kerrigan, I thought they were both really standout characters in terms of like being really fantastic, really interesting, really different, kind of novel. Whereas Artanis was just so bland, man. He was so boring. So that was like kind of the issue I had there. Whereas Zeratul was much more interesting and intriguing and mysterious. But Artanis really sucked. So yeah, just in terms of that, that's what I would point out. In terms of their character, Artanis was pretty bad. So yeah, there you go, guys. That was responding to quite a few comments we got through today. Maybe probably about 10 actually again. So yeah, give it a thumbs up if you liked the video. Let me know your thoughts down below as well if you got any follow-up comments on what I was talking about here. And I'll see you all next time. Again, like I said, probably going to talk about Varian, but depending on feedback, I might switch it up and talk about other things. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you all next time for more Heroes of the Storm. Bye-bye.